liberty for the pleasure of Allah, the pleasure of Allah. Oh, you who believe, read the Quran every night of Ramadan, night of Ramadan.
Ramadan Mubarak. Welcome to Ramadan Reminders. I'm Yusuf Estes, and I've been reading here in the Quran something appropriate for this time of the month because I'm in Juz 17, which is the 17th part of the Quran. And what I'm finding here is something that I don't know if you've thought about this or not. When Allah is talking to us here, let's go to the surah called Al-Hajj. That's 22 if you go by the numbers. And look at verse number 58. Verse number 58 in Surah 22. Allah said, those that immigrated for the cause of Allah, and then they were killed or they died, then Allah will surely provide for them a great provision, a good provision. And indeed it is Allah who's the best of providers. Allah is going to cause them to enter an entrance with which they will be pleased. He's talking about the paradise, and for sure Allah is knowing and forbearing. Whoever responds to injustice with the equivalent of that which he was harmed, and then is tyrannized, means somebody does terror to them, then Allah will surely aid them. Indeed, Allah is pardoning and forgiving. So we see immediately from this a clear teaching, and we should tell other people, those that are not Muslim, we should be telling them that Islam is so much against terrorism that here in this verse, those that are being terrorized, then Allah, He's going to aid them. Did you know, and I think you probably did, that anybody who's oppressed, Allah answers their dua even if they're not a Muslim? Yeah? Anybody who is being oppressed, if he raises his hands and he's calling on whatever he thinks God is, the real God, Allah, answers their prayers because of that oppression. Doesn't mean they're going to go to paradise, anything like that. But, if something happening to them and they're saying, I'm being oppressed, and so, help me. Allah gives them assistance because there isn't any assistance except from Allah. But if they want to attribute it to somebody else, that's their choice. Of course, they'll pay for that dearly on the Day of Judgment. What I'm trying to get across to myself and to you with this reminder is that we better be real careful, because Allah says clearly that He does not allow Himself to oppress. He forbids us to oppress. He hates oppression, called dhulam in the Arabic language, and whoever is an oppressor, then for sure they're going to suffer the results of their actions. This is not a joke. This is not something to take lightly. Did you know? Oh yeah, you're a Muslim, right? You think I can get away with stuff. Hold on. If you oppress a non-Muslim, and you said, well, I'm a Muslim, I can do that. No, you can't. Whatever you do to them, their dua is answered immediately. Because remember, they don't have anything to look forward to in the next life anyway. If they're going to die without being a Muslim, then Allah will give them their rewards here in this life. Therefore, if you oppress a non-Muslim and he complains about that to Allah, Allah is going to bring it back on you immediately. So you better be careful. In fact, why would you want to oppress anybody? Should we be oppressing these poor guys? I mean, after all, they're not even a Muslim. And that's the real miskeen. The poorest person on earth is the one that goes through this whole life thinking he's got his act together, but then on the Day of Judgment he finds out the sad truth. There really was only one God to start with, and I should have been doing what He wanted me to do. Yeah. The other thing is, we shouldn't be oppressing Muslims. Now, that's pretty clear. Because then I can't enter paradise, because I'm going to be stuck at the door with anybody I oppressed. I can't enter paradise until I'm forgiven by those whom I've oppressed in this life. Woo. Think about that. Oh, and there's another thing. How about oppressing your family? That's pretty bad, and that's real serious. If you ever oppress your parents, you don't want that to be something looking you in the face on the Day of Judgment. Then there's the thing about oppressing yourself. How serious is it? Allah revealed in the Quran a verse about what happens to the one that oppresses himself. It happened in relation to the story of the prophet Jonah, or Yunus. When he was inside the whale in the bottom of the sea, he realized his mistake, that he was only there in this condition, inside of this whale, at the bottom of the sea, being digested by his prison, which is the whale. And now suddenly he realizes, you know what? I did this to myself. I made the wrong choices, because we have choices. And I made a bad one. Look at his dua. Look at his prayer. We don't find it in the Bible, by the way, but you'll sure find it in the Quran, because nobody took it out of there yet. It goes something like this. La ilaha illa anta subhanak. Inni kuntum min adh-dhalimin. And here it's saying that all of the praise and the worship is only for Allah. There's no other God beside Him. He's the only one worthy of my worship. And all the glory is to Him, subhanak. And for sure, all the wrongdoing is what I did to myself. Dhulm, wrongdoing, oppression. So if anybody is doing any kind of oppression and terrorism, I mean, that's like the ultimate of the ultimate of the ultimate, terrorizing somebody, hurting people, killing people, or somebody killing themselves while they kill other people. You and I both know what that's all about. But here we have the verse in the Quran showing us exactly about that subject. I'll call your attention to it again. It's chapter 22, Al-Hajj, verse 60. Whoever responds to injustice with the equivalent of that, which they were harmed, but then they're terrorized or tyrannied, against them, Allah is going to help them. Whoever. Allah is going to aid them. Indeed, Allah is pardoning and forgiving. That's because Allah causes the night to enter the day and causes the day to enter the night. And because Allah is hearing and all-seeing. That's because Allah is the Haqq. He's the truth. And that upon which they call other than Him is batil. It's falsehood. And because Allah is most high and grand. Don't you see how Allah has sent down the rain from the sky and the earth becomes green? Indeed, Allah is the subtle and the acquainted. To Him belongs all that's in the heavens and the earth. And indeed, Allah is free of any need, and He's the praiseworthy. SubhanAllah, when you think about it, look how Allah has given us so much we take for granted every day. Even the fact that the night goes into the day and the day goes into the night. Have you watched it, how it goes, and thought about it? And Allah is talking about the way He causes the earth to turn. He mentions in the Quran about the earth winding, kawi, He calls it, and how it's going around. And this was 1,400 years ago, long, long time before anybody even discovered the earth was round, much less that it was in an elliptical orbit going around the sun. Can you imagine that? It's one of the proofs, isn't it? One of the big proofs of Islam. So many proofs around us every day. The thing is to just remind ourselves about it. Oh, yeah. Ramadan reminders. That's what we're watching, isn't it? We have a website, too. I'll remind you about the website. The website's called Ramadan Reminders. And this is the end of this session today, so we'll wrap it up by reminding you and me there's only one God to worship. So we love Him and we worship Him with all our hearts. And until tomorrow, remember Allah. Put Him first. Assalamu alaikum. Rahmatullah.
Oh, you who believe, give charity for the pleasure of Allah, the pleasure of Allah. Oh, you who believe, read the Quran every night of Ramadan, night of Ramadan.